Hello everyone, this is Riddhima Jaiswal of BCom 4th semester studying in Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed Rajki Government PG College, Mahmudabad, Sitapur. I am here for my presentation of macroeconomics and I have a series of 50 MCQs. Let's start. The first question is transport payment is. Here the four options are payment for goods with money, payments for goods with goods, payment with no goods exchanged, none of the above. And the correct answer is payments with no good exchange. Explanation. The government makes such payments to certain sections of society as well as aid and does not expect any returns. These transactions are known as transfer payments. Second one. An example of transfer payment is. The options are old age funds, disability funds, unemployment benefits, all of the above. The correct option is all of the above. The reason is that transfer payments include examples like old age, disability, unemployment. Next question. The reduction in the value of plant and machinery during the process of manufacturing is known as. The options are net national product, gross domestic product, depreciation, consumption. And the correct answer is depreciation. The reason is the process of reducing the value of assets over the course of their life is called depreciation. This happens simply with the wear and tear an asset goes through the time or regular usage. Next, gross domestic product is a sum of net national product, disposable income and gross national product, investment, consumption, government purchases and net exports, investment, wages, profits and intermediate production, all of the above. And the correct answer is investment, consumption, government purchases and net exports. Explanation is that the gross domestic product is calculated as the sum of investment, consumption, government purchase and net exports. Next one. The sum of the market value of dash sums up to the gross domestic product. The options are normal goods and services, final goods or services, intermediaries, all of the above. The correct answer is final goods or services. The reason is that the total value of final goods and services adds up to become the gross domestic product of an economy. Next one. Which of the following comes under GDP? Illegal drug sales, housework and off from work consulting services. The correct answer is consulting services. The reason is that the professional work of consulting services comes under the calculation of gross domestic product. Next, which of these can be used to measure inflation? The options are producer price index, consumer price index, gross domestic product deflator, all of the above. And the correct one is all of the above. Explanation is that the producer price index, consumer price index and gross domestic product deflator can be used to calculate the inflation in an economy. Next one. An inflation is at 3% and the nominal interest rate is 8%. What is the real rate of interest? 1%, 11%, 5%, none of the above. And the correct one is 5%. Explanation is the real rate of interest is the difference between the nominal interest rate and inflation. Next question. With an increase in the salary, the standard of living is likely to stay the same, rise, decline, not related. The correct one is rise. As the salary of an individual rises, he is more likely to increase his spending as well, thus improving his standard of living. Next one. The consumer price index is based on consumer production, total current production, products purchased by a typical consumer, none of the above. The correct one, products purchased by a typical consumer. Explanation is that the products which are purchased by the typical consumers are what is the basis of consumer price index. Next question. A logical measure of the standard of living in a country is. The options are real GDP per person, nominal GDP per person, real GDP, nominal GDP. The correct answer is real GDP per person. Explanation is a reasonable measure to estimate the standard of living of the people living in a country is to calculate the real gross domestic product per person. Next one. The opportunity cost of growth is reduction in current saving, reduction in current consumption, reduction in taxes, none of the above. The correct answer is reduction in current consumption. Explanation. The opportunity cost of growth is a reduction in the current consumption. Next question. Which of the following is an example of equity bonds? The options are corporate bonds, bank loan, company shares, government bonds. The correct answer is company shares. Explanation. Company shares are an excellent example of equity bonds. Next, a financial intermediary is a middleman between buyers and sellers, laborers, unions and firms, borrowers and firms, none of the above. The correct answer is borrowers and firms. Explanation. The middlemen between borrowers and firms are known as financial intermediaries. Next one. Credit risk refers to a bond, probability of default, price earnings ratio, dividend, term to maturity. The correct answer is probability of default, and the reason is that credit risk is the risk that the person issuing it may not be able to make the payment whenever requested. When government spendings exceed the amount of tax collected. Options are there is a budget deficit, there is a budget surplus, private saving is positive, public saving is positive. And the correct one is there is a budget deficit. Explanation is that when the government spends more than it collects taxes, there occurs a budget deficit. Next question. Saving is equal to, the following options are investment plus consumption plus expenditure, private saving plus public saving, GDP plus consumption expenses plus GST expenses, none of the above. And the correct answer is private saving plus public saving. And the explanation is that the formula for saving is private saving plus public saving. Next one. What is it called when the prices rise at an exorbitant rate? The options are disinflation, deflation, stagflation, inflation. And the correct one is inflation. The reason is that inflation is a situation when prices rise at a very fast pace in an economy. Next one. If the price rate doubles, the quantity demanded of money falls by half, the value of money has been reduced by half, nominal income is unaffected, none of the above. The correct answer is the value of money has been reduced by half. The reason is if the price rate doubles, the value of money gets reduced by half. Next question. The demand for money is most dependent upon the level of prices, the interest rate, the availability of banking outlets, the availability of credit card. The correct answer is the level of prices. Explanation is that in the long run, the most important factor for the demand for money is the level of prices in an economy. Next one. An economy that interacts with other economies is known as. The following options are an export economy, a friendly economy, an open economy, an import economy. And the correct one is an open economy. An open economy which interacts with other economies in the form of imports or exports. Next, which of the following statements is true about a trade deficit country? Net exports are negative, net capital outflow must be positive, export exceed imports, none of the above. The correct answer is net exports are negative, and the reason is if a country is in a trade deficit, then its net exports are negative. Next one. If a country exports more than it imports, net exports are negative, running a trade deficit, net capital outflow must be positive, net capital outflow must be negative. And the correct one is net capital outflow must be positive. If a country exports more than it imports, its net capital outflow must be positive. Next question. Keeping other factors constant, if the public consumes rupees 50,000 amount less and government spends rupees 50,000 amount more. The options are savings are unchanged, increase in saving, decrease in saving, saving is finished. The correct answer is savings are unchanged. Explanation is that if the net change in spending and consumption remains zero, there is no change in savings. Next question. Which of the following is not a reason why the aggregate demand curve slopes downward? The options are the exchange rate effect, the wealth effect, the classical monetary neutrality effect, the interest rate effect. The correct answer is the classical monetary neutrality effect, and the reason is the classical monetary neutrality effect states that the changes in the money supply can bring changes in the price of goods. Next, stagflation occurs when the economy experiences. Options are rising prices and rising outputs, rising prices and falling outputs, falling prices and rising outputs, falling prices and falling outputs. And the correct one is rising prices and falling outputs. Next one. Which event shifts the short-run aggregate supply curve to the right? A decrease in money supply, a decrease in oil prices, an increase in government spending, none of the above. And the correct one is a decrease in oil prices. And the explanation is a drop in oil prices shifts in the short-run aggregate supply curve to the right as it goes right when the price of a key input falls so the productivity increases. Next question. The initial effect of an increase in money supply is to increase the interest rate, increase the price level, decrease the price level, decrease the interest rate. And the correct one is decrease the interest rate. The reason is that the decrease in interest rate is what the initial effect of an increase in money supply does to an economy. Next question. The long run effect of an increase in money supply. Increase the interest rate, decrease the price level, increase the price level, decrease the interest rate. And the correct one is increase the price level. Explanation is that the long run effect of an increase in money supply is an increase in the price level. Next one. Name the policy that accords with expenditure and taxation policies decisions of the government. The options are monetary policy, fiscal policy, labor market policies, trade policies. And the correct answer is fiscal policies. As we know, fiscal policy deals with the decision making in expenditure and taxation policies by the government. Which tax among the following generates the maximum amount of revenue for the government of India? Custom duties, income tax, corporate tax, sales tax. And the correct one is corporate tax. The corporate tax is also considered to be the single largest form of income for the government of India. Next question. As per the reports of the Union Budget of 2021 to 2022, state the number of the Regional National Institute of Virology will set up. 2714. The correct is 4. Next question. Who leads the Goods and Services Taxes or the GST tax of India? President, Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Home Minister. The correct answer is Finance Minister. Explanation is the famous tax of India, the Goods and Services tax, is looked out by the Finance Minister of India. See the following names of taxes and tell which one is not included in goods and service taxes. Corporate tax, service tax, custom duty, value added tax. The correct one is custom duty. Custom duty is a tax that are not included in GST taxes. Next question is that if the grants for the creation of capital assets are deleted from the revenue deficit, then what will be the scenario? Fiscal deficit, effective revenue deficit, primary deficit, budget deficit. And the answer is effective revenue deficit. And the next one is when inflation is an outcome of the rise in the value of production factors, the outcome is cost push inflation, stagflation, demand pull inflation, devaluation. And the correct one is cost push inflation. It is called that cost push inflation, and it's when the prices of things like labor, raw materials and so on go up, the price of these goods go up due to a shortage of supply. Next question is that which one of the following principles is the exact reverse of inflation? Recession, stagflation, deflation, none of the above. The correct answer is deflation. Explanation is that deflation is when the price of goods and services goes down, which is called deflation. Next question is that money supply increases when inflation rises in the economy. No change, decrease, increase, none of these. The correct answer is increase. In the long run, inflation raises your living cost. Inflation can have a negative impact on the economy if the rate is high enough. The rise in pricing may indicate that the economy is expanding at a rapid pace. Next question is that in which year railway budget was being merged with the general budget? Budget 2016-17, Budget 2020-21, Budget 2017-18, Budget 2020-14-15. And the correct one is Budget 2017-18. In the budget for 2017 to 18, the railway budget and general budget were being merged under one roof and it was approved on September 21, 2016. Things that is not included in central government development spending. Options are defense expenditure, economic service expenditure, grants provided to state, spending on social and community services. And the answer is defense expenditure. Next, till which among the following can be considered an instance of direct taxes? The options are sales tax, wealth tax, entertainment tax, value added tax. And the correct one is wealth tax. Wealth tax is an example of direct taxes. Next question is that identify the following budget is an important part of whom? Fiscal policy of government, legislature, commercial policy of government, monetary policy of government. The correct answer is fiscal policy of government. Explanation is that the budget is a very important part of the fiscal policy of the government. Next one is that when two money funds are hunting down to few goods, the probable result of the inflation is recognized as. Here the options are deflation, cost push inflation, stagflation, demand pull inflation. The correct answer is demand pull inflation. Which one of the following observers is adopted to deduct inflation? Reduction in repo rate, reduction in bank rate, increase in government expenditure, cuts in government spending. The correct answer is cuts in government spending, and the reason is government spending is cut back, which lowers the amount of money in the economy, which lowers inflation even more. The mix of inflation and stagflation is called demand pull inflation, cost push inflation, devaluation, stagflation. The correct answer is stagflation. Stagflation refers to the market that is experiencing both a rise in inflation and slowdown in economic output at the same time. Next one is that the acquiring power of money differs. Options are directly the number of job grows, with the interest rate, with the price level, inversely with the price level, and the correct one is inversely with the price level. Which one of the following ideas is just totally opposite to deflation? Disinflation, inflation, stagflation, recession. The correct answer is inflation. It means that the price of goods is going up and it means that the price of goods is going down. Deflation and when the price of goods and services go down, which is called deflation. There is deflation when the inflation rate is less than 0%. Which of the following phases of the business cycle is characterized by the high economic growth, increased employment and rise consumer confidence? Expansion, peak, contraction, growth. The correct answer is expansion. The expansion phase of the business cycle is characterized by high economic growth, increased employment, rising consumer confidence. During this phase, business experienced increased production and sales leading to economic expansion. This results in more job opportunities, lower unemployment rates and increased consumer spending, as well as people become more confident in economy.